Hi guys, thank you so much for joining the baseline. All right, let me paint the picture. Parachutes, they're floating down like mercy from heaven, right? Soft, silent, slow. Crates of aid descending into the ruins of Gaza, like some type of Hollywood moment of hope. But when people when they run to grab them, they drown, they bleed, they get gunned down by the IDF. Well, tell me, what kind of humanitarian relief comes with a body count? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. And these airdrops, they're not humanitarian. They're public relations stunts, masking a system that deliberately starves a population of 2 million people. And here's the worst part. They're staged by the same governments funding the bombs that shattered the buildings they're now dropping food on. So welcome to the theater of mercy, where the parachutes fall just fast enough for international impunity to keep up with atrocity. So here's what we're going to try to dive into. And there are like three major questions almost no one in the mainstream press will touch. One is, why hasn't the UN officially declared famine in Gaza? Even as entire neighborhoods are starving right now. And who's really behind the decision to use airdrops instead of opening border crossings for real aid? And the third question is, why are journalists, the very people who could expose all this, being silenced at historic levels? And wait till you hear what Israel allegedly threatened to do if reporters boarded one of these so-called relief flights. But first, let me tell you what they don't show you on the evening news. And as we break this down, I need you to imagine a few things, right? I want you to imagine this specifically, actually. Let's say you're 10 years old and your stomach's been empty for days. And suddenly a crate parachutes from the sky. Now, you're 10 years old and you sprint towards it like it's your last chance to eat. And just as your hands touch it, 10 years old, boom, it crushes your friends, or you hear gunshots behind you, or it lands in the sea, and you dive in thinking, maybe today I'll get to live. Now, that's not fiction. That's Gaza right now. And it's not just a tragedy. It's a strategy. So let's talk about going from siege to starvation. The shift no one wants to admit. And this isn't new. Gaza has been under blockade since 2007. Land, sea, air, locked in by Israel and Egypt like a pressure cooker. The fuel controlled, fishing waters are restricted, cement is tracked, food monitored down to the calorie, guys. And no, that's not a metaphor. In 2012, Israeli planners literally calculated the minimum caloric threshold Gazans needed to avoid malnutrition, then tailored imports to that line. Now, fast forward to October 2023, after the Hamas-led attack, and the shift becomes brutal and public. Israel's defense minister declared a complete siege. No electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. And then came the words that still chill. We are fighting human animals. And that wasn't a slip of the tongue. That was a policy made very plain. Which brings us to airdrops and all the optics that surround it. Because when aid becomes theater, now the same nations backing the siege, the US, France, the UK, Jordan, start dropping crates of food from the sky. And it sounds noble, right? Except those crates, they're sometimes less than a single truckload. You know, it's not enough to feed a neighborhood for a day. Maybe it is. I don't know. But meanwhile, thousands of trucks loaded with real aid sit parked at the border crossings, blocked by Israeli authorities for weeks. Now, UNRWA's director, Philippe Lazzarini, said it best. These drops are optics, not substance. But here's where it gets darker. Some of those drops land in the sea. Desperate people actually are swimming after them only to be fired on while trying to survive. Others get crushed when crates smash into tents in all these displacement camps. Now, what kind of aid kills the people it claims to try to save? And here's the third thing. Cameras are banned, guys, and famine is denied. The information blackout, it's deafening. Now ask yourself, if the famine is real, where's the footage? Like, where are the documentaries, the breaking headlines, the war zones, the reports? And here's what matters. According to sources, including Middle East Monitor and Haaretz, Israel reportedly threatened to cancel all airdrops if media were allowed to ride along. No press, no photos, no story, and without verifiable documentation. You know, the UN can't declare a famine. They need data. But aid workers are dying. Journalists are banned. Surveys are blocked. Clinics are bombed. So what's the result of all this? Gaza starves. But it cannot be legally declared a famine zone. That's not a bureaucracy failure or a bureaucratic failure. That's actually their strategy. Now, starvation is a policy. You know, here's where the bitter truth comes in, right? Famine in Gaza isn't the tragic consequence of war. It's the mechanism of war. Food isn't just denied. It's used as a weapon of control. You want to feed your kids? Better live in a compliant zone. You want medicine? Better not speak out. You want to stay alive? Better hope you don't chase a crate into crossfire. And this isn't just happening at the margins. Reports from Euromed and others suggest that most of the airdrop food lands in areas controlled by Israeli forces or allied militias, where it's often confiscated or sold on black markets. Now, what's the result of all that? A starving civilian has to risk bullets, blackmail, or drowning just to eat? Gosh, guys, so here's the question we should all be asking, right? What kind of war uses food as bait? What kind of world drops crumbs from 30,000 feet while blocking the bakery on the ground? Until full aid access is restored, until journalists can freely report, until the siege is lifted and independent investigators are allowed in, these parachutes will keep falling, and so will the bodies. This is not just starvation. This is a theater of starvation, designed to make complicity look like compassion. And every crate that falls from the sky is a silent admission that the world sees what's happening. And it's still choosing to do almost nothing about it, which is the most shocking thing. But if you think this story ends with Gaza, wait until you see who's profiting from this famine and how Western defense contractors are building PR into their war budgets. It's insane. That's the next thing we'll cover in another episode. But please smash the like button, drop your comments in the section below, and we'll look forward to catching you on the next round of the Baseline. Thank you so much.